Alright, we're rolling.
Alright guys, what's happening? Coach Darrell in my kitchen. Welcome. Today we are going to set up. I'm going to teach you guys how to make some food. You know, we've been talking about this for a little while. We've been putting it out there through the podcast, through social media, some things that you guys wanted me to make. So here we are. Today what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you guys how to make 3 pretty simple dishes that you guys can do at home that are not going to require a lot of prep thinking. I'm going to try and take all the thinking out of this and make this as simple as possible. So what we're going to do today is we had requests for ribs. So I'm going to teach you guys how to make some baby back ribs in the oven. Okay, I know not everybody is or has a Traeger like I do, or a smoker, or even a grill. So we're gonna make this super simple, and we're gonna do those in the oven today. We also have a head of cauliflower here. So I'm gonna teach you guys how to make cauliflower rice, like a real version of cauliflower rice, not the already pre-chopped up, pre-diced stuff that usually gets a little soggy, runny, mushy, not real good. So we're gonna do that, and then last, over here we've got a ton of ingredients. I'm going to teach you guys how to make Cincinnati chili. Okay, this is kind of my favorite version of chili. It's a little bit different flavor profile, and it's pretty simple to do. So anyways, we're going to get started, and what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you guys how to do the ribs first, because they're pretty quick, pretty simple. We'll get them in the oven. They probably take about 2.5 hours to cook, so we're going to get those rolling. So what we do first is take your ribs. We're going to open up the pack. Now, when you do this, you can open these up. I like to take my ribs and cut off what we call the silver skin on the back of the ribs. Okay, so the silver skin is that real thin layer on the back side of the ribs here that we're going to cut into and kind of peel that off. What I have is I have my roasting pan with my little grate set up in the bottom of it. I'm going to set these upside down in here. I'm going to take my knife. I'm going to cut through that silver skin, ditch my knife, and what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to pull that skin back and remove that. Not everybody does this. I like to. I feel like when I do this, the ribs have a little bit better flavor, a little bit better taste, a little bit better chew to them. If I can get this off there, that'd be pretty cool. Okay, ditch that. Flip it. We'll do that on the other side too. Hopefully. So the ribs in the oven are something that I used to do before I got my Traeger, even before I had a grill. And they're usually pretty cool. They usually have pretty good flavor. And they're usually kind of a nice fall apart type of rib where the meat will kind of pull right off the bone. So I got that silver skin off the ribs. I got the meaty side facing up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I'm going to actually run a little bit of water over the top of the ribs. Okay, so just a little bit of water. So I get enough to cover the bottom of my pan, so I get a little bit of moisture in there. From there, what I'm going to do is we're going to bust out our seasoning. So what I'm going to use today, I want to keep this simple. I like to make my own rubs a lot of times. My favorite store-bought or ordered rubs are from Meat Church. If you guys don't know about Meat Church, I just let you in on a huge secret there. Their stuff is amazing. So what we're going to use is a combination of the Holy Gospel and Honey Hog Barbecue. Okay, those are 2 of my favorite Meat Churches, and when you use these together on ribs, amazing. So anyways, these are our seasonings. What we're going to do to get a smoke flavor is we're going to use some of the Wright's liquid smoke, the hickory flavor. Okay, so this stuff, a little bit goes a long way. You don't have to go crazy with it. You don't have to use this entire bottle. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our Wrights, plug the top. I'm going to pour a little bit of the Wrights over the top of the ribs. Then I'm going to flip, pour a little bit on the bottom side. Then from there, wash my hands real quick. Now we're gonna season. Okay, now when I season the ribs, what I'm gonna do is that bottom side, I'm just gonna do a real quick dust of my gospel. Just enough to dust, cover the top. I'm not going crazy with this. And then from there, I'm gonna take my honey hog. I'm gonna cover that with the honey hog. Now again, the bottom side of the ribs, I'm not going bonkers with the seasoning, just getting a good little dust, good little cover to it. Now typically, I'm gonna let that sit for a few minutes, flip it over. Since today, we're just kind of rolling through this, I'm gonna take my ribs, I'm gonna flip them, and then from there, wash my hands again. I'm gonna season the top side, the meaty side of the ribs, okay? And when I season the top side, I like to go a little bit heavier on the seasoning, okay? Get some flavor in there. So start again with that gospel. Cover that real nice. Then I'm gonna take my honey hog. I'm gonna cover that with the honey hog. Again, I'm just doing this by eyesight, right? I'm just looking to make sure that I've got good coverage. I don't really measure anything out when I'm doing something like ribs. That's gonna go, make sure I got a good cover of the meat, and I'm set. So here's my ribs. Here's what we're looking at. Is nice set of baby back ribs, covered. We've got some moisture in the bottom of that pan. I'll move this down this way, hopefully you guys see that. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some aluminum foil. Mind me popping out of sight there for a sec. I'm gonna take some aluminum foil. I'm gonna cover my pan. I'm gonna seal it up tight. Okay, so get good coverage. I'm trying to tuck all these corners in here to make sure I've got a good seal on this. Keep all that moisture in. That will start to break down that tissue, that meat as it cooks. So, I've got good coverage on there. Our ribs are set, they're ready to rock. So, I've got my oven preheated to 275 degrees. They're gonna go in the oven. They're gonna hang out there for about 2.5 hours. Once they are done, I pull them, I take the foil off, put my broiler on high, put it underneath the broiler for about 2 or 3 minutes, just to get a little crisp on that top side of the ribs. So, here we go. Ribs are going in the oven. We'll see these guys in about 2.5 hours. So it is 9:52 right now. I need to say that out loud so I don't forget what time I put them in the oven. Cool guys, that's our ribs. So we'll be back with some chili for you guys in just a minute. You rolling? All right, guys, welcome back. Today, or now, what we are gonna do is we are gonna make some Cincinnati chili. So what I am doing currently is I've got some bacon fat melting down in my stock pot here. Our recipe, I put 2 tablespoons of olive oil or avocado oil to kind of start this chili. So we wanna get that nice and warm. I've got this on high right now. I've got my bacon fat melted. You guys can do this with bacon fat, with avocado oil, with olive oil. Bacon fat's kind of my own personal favorite. From there, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna toss basically 1 onion diced in there. I went with the cheater method. I went a pre-diced onion. If you don't have time, makes things a lot easier. Buy a pre-diced onion from the store. As this is cooking down a little bit, I'm going to just kind of stir the onion a little as it goes, letting that, like I said, break down. The Cincinnati chili, kind of a cool recipe, something that I kind of discovered, I don't know, probably about 15 years ago. I think Tara, my wife, is the one who kind of introduced me to this. It's got a real cool flavor to it. As this onion's cooking down a little bit on high, I'm gonna add a little bit of chicken stock. Just to give that a little bit of moisture to help break that down. Yeah, the Cincinnati chili, like I said, with that distinct flavor it has, you guys are gonna see we're gonna be using some kind of different ingredients today than what you typically add to a chili. So that onion's starting to cook down pretty well. I've got all my ingredients kind of pre-measured, just so you guys don't have to watch me with a tablespoon, just kind of go through this stuff, because it's kind of a pain in the ass. The stuff that we are using, we will have posted to go along with this video with all the exact measurements. I'm an eyeball person, so this was kind of tough for me to actually get everything down on paper with the exact measurements, but hopefully this works out. Hopefully you guys aren't eating something that tastes terrible. No, this would be pretty good. So I've got my onion cooking down. I've got my minced garlic that I'm gonna add now too, to start to break that down a little bit. So that minced garlic will start to cook down. I like the minced garlic just again because it's easy. My buddy Tom, who I used to have my food truck with, used to call it cheater garlic because he always liked to break down real garlic cloves and chop them up. And you know, you can I definitely enjoy fresh garlic, but if I'm in a hurry, a jarred minced garlic, easy stuff, man. So for today, we are using that minced garlic. This is my bacon fat, in case you're wondering what that was. So this is gonna keep cooking down for a sec. After this breaks down a little bit more, the onions and the garlic, I'm gonna add my ground meat. Today I'm using just a basic ground turkey. We're gonna go 3 pounds worth of meat. I'm making a pretty big batch. I wanted you guys to see something like that all prep for my household. This will give us like, this 3 pound batch of meat plus this batch of chili will give us probably about 10 servings worth of chili in our house. So 9, 10 servings, something like that. So this is something that you can prep for the week. If you're single, you live on your own, or you're not gonna get through that much, adding a little bit more of the chicken stock here. If you're not gonna get through that much of it, this is stuff that you can freeze too. I've done that a bunch with Cincinnati chili, or even just my regular chili, is just make sure you get some sealable containers, put them in the freezer, pull them out later. So my onions, garlic starting to break down. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add that ground meat, that ground turkey, and let that start to cook down and break down a little bit and brown a little bit. And I'm gonna keep that rolling on high for now on my burner. Okay. Wash my hands. So as that cooks down, I'm going to talk you guys through some of the seasonings that we're going to use today that I have pre-measured. So like any chili, we're going to use some chili powder. What's going to give this, you know, and we're going to have some sea salt too. What's going to kind of give this a distinct flavor is we're going to use some allspice, okay? And then we're also going to add cinnamon and unsweetened cocoa powder, okay? So this is going to give us a different flavor, but it's awesome. Why is this called Cincinnati chili? Well, if you've ever been to Cincinnati, they call it five-way chili there, okay? And the five-way chili, what they do is they take their chili and they serve this over noodles, right? Usually spaghetti. So they serve it over the top of spaghetti, and then they top it with usually like a cheddar cheese, oyster crackers, and diced onions. For me, I hate onions, so I'm definitely not gonna add any to the top. I know, like for our house, Tara loves having onions on top. Dalton and I usually eat ours with some nice sharp cheddar cheese or extra sharp cheddar. And we usually do this over the top of rice noodles. So I'll get like a spaghetti style rice noodle, put it over the top of that. I've also done this over the top of rice, done it over the top of cauliflower rice also, which is pretty awesome if you're trying to keep your carbs low. Okay, so my ground turkey starting to break down a little, starting to brown up a little bit. We're gonna give it another minute or so there before we start to add our seasonings into this. So, like I said, this is a recipe that Tara actually used to make for me. Like when we first started dating, I said that's kind of how she hooked me. Is she fooled me into thinking that she could cook. She can't cook. She followed a recipe for this. And that was about the only thing that she would make, but it was one of my favorites. So I kind of made it my own, tweaked things a little bit, and yeah, here we are. So that's cooking down. We're looking pretty good there. I'm gonna grab my can opener because I'm gonna need to open up some cans that we're gonna have here in a couple minutes rolling into this. So you guys see I got some kidney beans here. Typically a Cincinnati Chili has kidney beans. I make this with and without. You can do it either way. Again, if you're watching your carbs, probably kick those kidney beans out of there, right? You don't need them. For us, I like having the beans. I know Dalton loves the beans. Typically, if I was gonna make this as a Cincinnati Chili with beans, I'd probably go with 3 times as many cans, right? Like I could use up to like 6 of those cans in a batch this big. That's gonna give it a lot more consistently, a lot more calories too. But I just like having a few beans in there for the taste, for the flavor. It's good stuff. So we are pretty close there on my ground meat. Almost perfect timing. Just crack this last can. Awesome, give this a quick stir. All right, so that meat's browned up pretty nice, mixed in with the onions and the garlic. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn that heat down. We're gonna go to about a medium there on the stove top, and I'm gonna start to add in some of my dry ingredients. Okay, so my dry ingredients, like I said, I pre-measured, so you guys don't have to sit here and watch me, wrong one, measure all that stuff out. Okay, and we're just gonna add this in to my ground meat. Okay. From there, we're gonna add a little bit of our chicken stock. You can use water. I like chicken stock just because it has a little bit more flavor to it, and I like the nutrients I get from the chicken stock. So from there, added my chicken stock. I'm gonna give this a nice little stir. Get everything blended up together nice in there. We're gonna let that cook down for just a sec. As that's cooking down, I'm gonna drain my beans. Alright, got my frijoles ready. Now, what I'm going to do, stir this again. So I'm going to start to build this up. So, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add in some Worcestershire sauce. That sound right? I think that sounded right. I'm going to add in my Worcestershire sauce. I'm going to add in my couple cans of kidney beans. And then I'm going to add in my tomato. You can use tomato sauce, crushed tomatoes. Some people like diced tomatoes. I like a combination of crushed tomatoes. So I'm going to use 2 big cans, the 28-ounce cans of the crushed tomatoes, and 1 big can of the petite diced tomatoes, because I like a little bit of chunks of my tomatoes in my chili. So I'm going to add those in. Cans out of the way. We're going to give it a little stir. Now for the final ingredient that we're going to add to this. And I know for me, when I first started making this, it really tripped me out, but we're going to add our cocoa powder. Okay? So we got our cocoa powder, we're going to add that in. What that's going to do, number one, it's going to give it a nice flavor with that chocolate. You know, Mike and I were talking before, he said, it's kind of like you're making a mole. So yeah, maybe a little bit. It doesn't quite have that super rich flavor like a mole would have, but it is going to give it that little bit of chocolate flavor. But the cocoa is also going to tighten that chili up a little bit as it simmers. So we're going to stir that up, get that cocoa mixed in. Smells delicious already. Now, we've got that all mixed up. Now the hardest part of the day. We're gonna cover that, and we're gonna sit here and let that simmer. Okay, so now, when we let this simmer, I've got that on medium heat right now. I'm gonna let that start to kind of bubble up, start to boil a little bit, and then I'm gonna turn that down to just above a low temperature and let it simmer for probably an hour, hour and a half. Now, I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna stir that probably every 10 or 15 minutes. Make sure, especially with that cocoa powder in there, we're not letting that chili stick to the bottom of that pot. Okay, so continuously mix it up. About an hour and a half, hour and a half, we're gonna have some delicious Cincinnati chili to eat. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. Like I said, pretty simple recipe. You guys saw me put that together. Probably took me about 10 minutes or so. Yeah, that's all I got, guys. Well, hopefully you guys see this finished product and it looks amazing. We'll see you. Is it rolling?
It's rolling.
Okay. What's up, guys? We are back in the kitchen. Today, what we are gonna do for the last thing that I'm gonna prep is I'm gonna teach you guys how to make cauliflower rice. Okay, again, like I said before, you can buy the pre-bought cauliflower rice that's frozen. You can buy the stuff that is pre-diced. Stuff works okay. I'm not a huge fan of it. Usually it has too much moisture. Usually gets a little too soggy for me. So I like going old school, making my own cauliflower rice. So I have actually a really big head of cauliflower here, organic cauliflower. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break this down into kind of florets. So I'm gonna cut this stalk off of this and then break it down from there. So what I'm doing, get rid of this stuff, is, like I said, cutting off the stalk. I'm gonna cut this back 2 florets, throw it in a bowl, and we will wash the cauliflower. I don't know if you guys have ever broken down a head of cauliflower before, but a lot of times when you do that, you get all sorts of little bugs and stuff that were once living in there. And you probably want to wash that shit out. So, breaking this down, putting our florets in there. If you've ever broken down a head of cauliflower, you know this stuff goes everywhere. So, I'm gonna have to make sure we clean that up before Tara gets home so I don't get my butt kicked. So, again, breaking down the other half of this head of cauli. This is something that I learned how to make when I had my food truck and my meal prep service with my buddy Tom. And we tried buying some of the store-bought stuff and realized it kind of sucked, and we started doing this on our own, making our own cauliflower rice with actual heads of cauliflower, and we got nothing but awesome reviews from people, so kind of stuck with us. So I'm just kind of rinsing my cauliflower here, and then I'm gonna just give it a quick drain. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come over to my stove, and I have my pot set up with my steamer basket in here, and I'm gonna start to load my cauliflower, my florets of cauliflower, into my pot. And when I do that, you guys see I'm kind of breaking this down. I don't want huge hunks of that cauliflower going in there, because then it's gonna take a little bit longer to steam. Okay? I want this to kind of all cook evenly through. I don't want some of it steamed and some of it still stiff, hard, and tough. So yeah, cauliflower rice, we're just gonna do a basic version of cauliflower rice today. Something where I would have this and probably put something over the top of it. There's all different types of cauliflower rice that you can make. I've done it where I've made like a Mexican style rice out of it, and added different types of spices and seasonings. One of my favorites that I like to do is a coconut lime cauliflower rice, where I just make the cauliflower rice like this, add a little bit of fresh lime juice, a little salt, a little pepper, and a little bit of coconut milk, and it is awesome. So I'm gonna turn my burner on high there to get that nice and hot and rolling. Okay. We've almost filled this up. That's good, because I'm almost out of cauliflower. So Again, the cauli rice is kind of a nice substitution to regular rice, getting away from eating a ton of carbohydrates. As you guys probably know, cauliflower has that real strong smell, and it can have a real strong flavor to it until you add other stuff to it. It kind of kills the flavor, and it'll kind of take on the flavor of whatever else you're cooking with. So I've got that cauliflower all broken down. We've got it in our pot. We're going to cover this up, and we're going to let that steam down. Usually takes about 10 minutes, and when that's done, I'll show you guys next step.
Okay, action, go.
Alright guys, welcome back. We are going to get our cauliflower riced. So what we did is we steamed those cauliflower florets nice and purty. Okay, so we're pulling that off. Got those steamed. What we're going to do is put those in a nice big metal mixing bowl here. And then I'm going to actually rice the cauliflower. So these are going to be extremely hot. So I'm going to pull these out with a fork so I don't roast my hands. And then we're going to rice this. So you guys can kind of see as I'm pulling this stuff out that cauliflower is already starting to break down a little bit, but it's still got a little bit of texture to it to where I'm not just stabbing it and it's completely falling apart. I always take a fork to test to see if it's done, you know, if I'm steaming this, and I should be able to push through the cauliflower like that. Right, so cauliflower is coming out, getting a little steam on my face. Follow me for my beauty tips. Okay, so we're going to take the rest of that cauliflower now that I can grab the top of my steam basket, put that into the bowl. Now from there, I'm going to actually rice my cauliflower. So how I do that, this is the magic trick. Some people do it with a fork, and that works. You know, and I used to do it with a fork, and then I discovered a dough kneader that somebody would use for baking, right? They'd use this for dough. I use my dough kneader, and I just start to smash through, press down on my cauliflower to rice it. It makes things a lot easier than doing that with a fork, especially when you have a food truck or a meal prep service where you are doing 5, 6, 7 heads of cauliflower at a time. That gets really, really boring when you're doing that with a fork, and it takes a lot of time. So the dough kneader kind of speeds that process up. And I'm just going to keep breaking this down until I find that consistency of what I want from that cauliflower rice. A lot of people, when they do this, want their cauliflower rice real fine, like grains of rice. So you're going to go a little bit longer and break this down a little bit more, right? And you'll know as you're going through when you find that consistency that you want. So we're almost there. Do a little arm workout in as we're doing this. And like I said, cauliflower rice is one of those things for me. I love it because it's pretty filling, and I can have this with a lot of different stuff, right? I can make my taco bowls with it. I'm probably going to put some of that Cincinnati chili that I've got going over the top also. Awesome. So I think we've got our cauliflower rice done. So I've got that done to where I want it, where I like it. We are set. Ready to rock, guys. Cauliflower rice. It took in total probably about 10-15 minutes to make. Delicious stuff. That head of cauliflower was extremely large. So you guys saw that kind of filled up my whole pot there. That's going to be I don't know, probably 7-8 servings worth of cauliflower rice, depending on how much of it you eat. You know, cauliflower is one of those things. There are some people, they can handle a lot more of it than others. For some people, it's gonna do damage on the tummy if we're eating too much at one time. So there's your basic cauliflower rice, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. What's up, guys? Thanks for following along today with Cooking in My Kitchen. Don't forget to follow us on social media, please. Check us out on all the different social media channels. Check us out on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, like, give us thumbs up, give us a review, especially on our podcast and anything that we're putting out there on YouTube. That helps us tremendously. Anyways, guys, thanks again for watching. Have a great day.